Hello everybody, welcome to my studio. My name's Lonna. I'm an acrylic artist. Thanks so much for stopping in today. Well, today we're going to paint a very simplified version of an ocean scene. I've titled this one Ocean View. I'm going to give you a look at it. I love how simplistic this is. I just think it turned out amazing. I'm on an 8x8 canvas and I'm going to be using DecoArt Americana acrylic paints. This project is a very quick one. I did not add tons of detail. I wanted to keep this a more simplified painting so that anybody could paint it at any skill level. So give it a try, you guys. Grab your paints and paint along. So if you're ready, let's grab our paints and supplies and let's get painting. Alright, we're going to start this project. This is a 8x8 gallery wrapped canvas. I had originally painted something else on it. I've already painted a couple of coats of white paint over it so I could paint over it. It was just a canvas that I kind of practiced on. So I'm going to go 3 1/4 inches down, and I'm just using a random, very cheap watercolor pencil. You can use a regular pencil, whatever you want to use will be perfectly fine. So we're going to mark our horizon line, and I'm going to see if that's going to appeal to me, if I want to move it up a little bit more. My line drawing here is the Seagull, and I really want the Seagull, the skyline to go through there. More water down here, so we'll go with that. I am going to wrap this around. So the next thing I want to do, I want to tape off my sky, or tape off so that I can paint my sky. So I'm just going to use Scotch tape to do that. I'm just going to pull out a really long piece because I want to be able to wrap it all the way around this. And I'm going to just slightly go below that line if I can. My canvas is not top notch. It's a little kind of caved in the center here, so hopefully we can get a decent painting out of it. And then I'll just take it around the edge and tape it. Make sure it's sticking. Alright, I'm going to fold this end over. Give me something to grab a hold of when I am ready to lift that tape off. So now when I apply my paint here, that line should blend in. I've got it over it just a little bit there, but my water will also catch that and it can blend with my water. So no worries. So a ruler, a T-square to mark your line, a watercolor pencil to draw it, and I'm not sure why my camera just moved like that. That's crazy. It's on its own whole mechanism, so that was crazy. Okay, so my sky, I want it to be a really soft, kind of tealy blue. I've got this color Shoreline. I'm going to also put out a little warm white. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to use a flat brush here. Nothing has to be too perfect in this, but I do want my sky to be a little bit lighter than the color that comes out of the bottle. So I'm going to take my my warm white and my Shoreline. Let's go 2 warm white and 1 Shoreline. 1, 2, 1. And we'll paint this along the horizon here. And maybe just go slightly lighter as we get towards the top of the canvas. We can see it's kind of this tealy green color. It's kind of an older bottle. So maybe it's just going bad. I don't know, the tip of it was clogged up really bad, but it smells kind of weird. Alright, I'm just going to dirty brush into my warm white and put more of the warm white closer to the top here. You should see a difference because warm white is a little bit of a different color than white. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to leave my sky right there. I really like it. That lighter color at the top and the darker at the bottom, so hopefully when it dries it'll be a little bit more visual for you. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape because I'm very happy with that. And I'm going to get it dry. And then we're going to base in our water down here. So that's pretty good. When I tape off, I'm going to tape off just slightly above that line that I painted. I want to make sure that there is no white in between the two. So we need to grab the color and make sure that we are covering that up. Alright, I've got my tape on here and I've captured part of that line. So my tape is just slightly above that skyline. My sky is dry. I think it looks really good. That warm white really gave a subtle little glow into the top of the canvas. Alright, here's my colors I got out. I think I'm going to stick with these colors for now. I don't know. I've got an idea of how I want this to look, but we'll see how it goes. I'm also going to put white out because some of these colors are pretty dark and I might want to tone them with some white because I don't want them to be incredibly bold. So we'll start with this color back here, and this is not a very big canvas, so I don't have to get too incredibly carried away with. I've got enough paint here on my palette probably to do at least 3 of these canvases. I'm going to bring just a little bit of this down. So I did a 2 white and 1 Bahama blue mix there. I'm not going to rinse my brush. I'm just going to go right into this darker value here. And we'll start putting some of it in. You know, skip some places. We want to put some of these other colors in to blend, you know, here and there. All right. And now I'm just going to go into the teal, which this seems so bold. This dragon teal. So I'm going to take it up into some of these places. I might go over and grab some of the lighter color that I mixed. I'm not mixing it with white, but the Bahama blue. So this is where I just want you to pick up some colors at random. When you get down to start using the dark colors, you know, we don't want to cover everything dark. We got to have some lightness in there. Don't forget the bottom of your canvas either. We got to have some lightness in there. So I'm going to go back to the previous color and put some of that in here. I'm going to wipe my brush when it gets kind of full. Okay, I'm going to wipe that off and go to my light color and bring some of those lighter colors down here. Let's bring some down here. You know, we're not going to see the bottom of the canvas when we're done, but you know, this is a gallery wrap canvas, so you want to really finish it off nicely. Okay, put it down here. Maybe just a touch more of that darker color, which it's blending now, so it's not going to be super dark. Okay, I need a little bit, some color in here. Go back to some of that mid-value color. So we got light, medium, dark. So I'm going to go to my light color and put, okay, that was like tons more than I wanted on my brush. I'm going to blend that in there. And we can put a little dark up here. Not too much because that's like really high up there in the water. We don't want it to be too crazy. I don't want to see any white canvas, so that's where I want you to, you know, make sure everything is done. So you don't have to come back and do a second layer. We're going to put some other stuff on top of this, but we want to try and get as much of this white canvas covered up as we can. And I really don't like to go get water while I'm doing this, but I did get just a tiny bit of water because I need to get some of that pushed into that canvas right there. You're going to think, why am I worrying about pushing it in when you see what I'm going to do to it next? Okay, picked up way too much white there. Grab a little bit of that, maybe a little bit of the dark. Kind of fix that. It's almost all one note over here on this edge, but I won't worry too much about it. Alright, we're looking pretty good. I think I got most of the white covered up. There's still a few places that I'm not too happy with. So I didn't use that tropical blue in the water. I just used those main three colors there. Let's go ahead and take this tape off and hope that we did a good job. Alright, that looks really nice. I like it. So I've got to get this layer completely dry. That's a beautiful start to our water. I love all the varying colors. That's what you want to see. You don't want to over blend it. And it's very easy to do when you're kind of filling in with colors. So that's why if you hop around with different colors, if you come back and do that and then wipe your brush out to remove any excess paint, you can go in there and blend it really well while it's wet. Now, if you have a lot of difficulty getting your paint blended out before it dries, apply a mix of extender and water to your canvas before you even start. That will keep it from drying. It also may mean that you need to put a second layer on there, but it's going to help you be able to blend it better because it's not going to dry as quickly. Okay, let's get this dry. Alright, you guys, my background is dry. I think it looks great. I particularly like how the sky looks. I wish you probably can't see the variations of color in my sky, but it looks really nice. Now you could come back in and add some clouds if you want to, but I'm going to keep the sky simple. I think this whole project should be, I'm hoping, an easy one. Now, you know how I love bokeh effect in the background, and I really want to do that in my water. So, normally I would use a stencil, and stencil on, you know, circles in the background for my bokeh effect. I think this time I'm going to try something a little bit different and see if I can't give you another option for creating this effect in the background. I'm going to use some glazing medium, and I'm only going to use the colors of white and warm white. I did put a little bit of the Bahama blue out, but I don't know that I will be using it. We shall see. I could change my mind. Alright, there we go. A little bit of glazing medium. Okay. If you're going to buy a different brand of glazing medium, I recommend the ones that are more fluid, as opposed to some, I have had some that were not fluid. Okay, so I am going to try and do this bokeh effect with some brushes. I've got all sorts of like little dome brushes, and the Betty Bird ones are probably my favorite ones. And then I've got a couple of Royal that I think I bought at, well, when Hobby Lobby sold Royal brushes. I don't think they do anymore. I don't know. Low Cornell from when I sold Low Cornell. And then this is a one-stroke plaid brush. It's got some loose hairs for one thing, but it's like a little scruffy type brush, you know, where you can just put some stuff in. Really, if you've got an old worn out brush that's not great big, should be perfect. But I like these more shorter, denser ones. So I'm actually going to try a couple of different brushes to see how they work. That one is really like worn out. So I might try this tiny little brush here. This is, I forget what they, oh, a scruffy brush. This is a little scruffy brush. It's a 1/8 inch scruffy brush, 1-stroke brush, and then this is a Betty Bird one. I don't know that you can get either one of these brushes. That's why I say if you've got an old worn out brush, that is what I recommend that you use. Okay, so I want to have some really subtle blurred out ones. I really want all this to look more blurred out. So I'm going to load my brush with my glazing medium. Okay, and then get a little bit of white in there and work it into my brush. Let me grab a paper towel so I can tap on it if I feel like I've got too much paint. Let me move my line drawing because I don't want to get anything on my line drawing. I can just tap. And we'll just start putting little, they do not have to be perfect circles. We're just going to put this all over. Okay, and this might take a while because you're going to cover this entire surface with these little blurred out things. And I just love this effect. When I started doing this particular effect, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and the first time I did it, I just kind of fell in love with the look of it, and so now I just want to do it all the time. Sometimes I got to make myself like really stop. It's like, stop with the bokeh already. So that's why I say if you don't want to do this, or you've like had enough of me doing bokeh effect, then don't do it. Just do what you do you. I don't want you to feel like you have to do any parts that you don't like. Okay? And we are going to put a lot in here. I'm going to get a little bit more white in my brush now. I'll work that in with my glazing medium. I still want that glazing medium in there. And we'll start making some brighter ones. And we are going to add some that are a little bit maybe different in color. And you can use a stencil. So I have a little 1/4 inch stencil. I think I'm going to start making some of these a little bit bigger. I think I want them to be a bit bigger, not so small. Okay, just keep going. I'm still using just my white and my glazing medium. It's got a lot of white in it, so I'm going to tap my paper towel. Let's get some over here. A little bit harder to do on the side because it's above me and it wants to wobble, but I'm going to do my best. Come over here and do some. Okay. You can do some with some warm white as well. They'll be a little bit more kind of subtle looking. Right now I'm still just working with that white and glazing medium that I mixed up. So let's make a little bit of glazing medium and warm white. And my brush is really overloaded here, so see, these are not quite as bright because they're with warm white. I like those. Those are amazing. So I just dip into my glazing medium, dip into my warm white, blend them on my brush. And if I feel like I've got too much, then I go over and tap and remove a little bit onto my paper towel. That's looking awesome. And bokeh, this bokeh effect can be any size that you want it to be. I'm going to have to mix me up a little bit more here. You know, your circles do not have to be a certain size. It's totally on you what size you want them to be. Okay, that one's really bright, so let me get a little bit of that paint on my brush. Let's get some down here. I feel like we've got a big open space down here. A little bit more glazing medium, so it's going to be a little more subtle. We don't want them all to be in a row. We don't want to make polka dots. That's why we have to move all around. That's why we have to do a lot. That's why we have to overlap and overlap and overlap. So I'm going to go grab some white paint now. I am not adding any extra glazing medium into my brush. So I'm going to make some almost pure white ones. I still have a little bit of that warm white mix in my brush, but as I reload there'll be less and less, and that is looking really good. Now I'm going to get it dry and get my line drying on it. Alrighty, I got my line drying on here. Just use some gray graphite paper and transfer it on. You can print your line drawing onto vellum or just print it yourself onto tracing paper. I'm going to base our little post in here with some brown. What color do I have here? Sable brown. I'm going to add a little bit of warm white to that, get it some varying color here because I do want it to look a little aged as we develop it. Get a little bit of water so I can move my paint. And don't make your little log perfect. We don't want it to be perfect. You know, it's got some wear on it. So, you know, I know I've kind of drawn it a little bit straight on there, but it doesn't have to be straight. Now, at this point, you can continue this down onto the bottom of your canvas so that it, you know, has that look like it's a finished piece. Or you can just leave it water down here. It really doesn't matter. But I like, when I do a gallery wrapped canvas, I do like to continue my design around the edges, and you know, this one doesn't have much going on that has to be carried around, but you know, it's nice to have it a finished look. All right, so that was with sable brown, a little bit of warm white, just loosely double load your brush and put it on there. We're not being fancy about this at all. Okay, I'm going to base my bird in with some warm white. And it'll take a couple coats. I'm just going to make everything warm white. And then we'll come back and add details and all that stuff. I have never painted a seagull before, so hopefully I can make it look like one. I thought this would be a fun, easy painting that you could kind of work your way into painting some basic stuff for ocean scene type stuff and not have to get super detailed into it. But you certainly can get as detailed on this project as you want to get. So, you know, that is all going to be up to you. Now I'm going to go ahead and base in the beak and the feet. They are a really bright orangey color, and their beak will come back into the head a little bit, but they're pretty bright. So I've got me a bright orange here, but I don't know if I want to tone it down to begin with. Let's see what colors I want to try here. Because I've got a really bright orange here and it's super bright. I think we'll make it a little more muted to begin with, and that way we can darken it up. So I've got golden straw, so let's do 2 golden straw and 1, what color do I have? Warm sunset. And we'll just base in our legs and our beak with this color. Got a wild, crazy wild hair there. I'm going to cut it off. It is not going to do what it's supposed to do. Hopefully I don't create another one. I'm really going to have to find a picture and see what their feet look like, because I'm not really sure. What do they have, more like duck feet? I don't know. I don't know what their feet look like. Hair there. I think when I cut that other one off, I made a I made a loose one. Not sure its legs are very straight, but got a little orange back there. I don't know if I can get it off or not. It wants to stay. It wants to stay right there. Okay, that's... I don't think the knot needs to be quite that big, do you? I was just trying to straighten it up a little bit. Okay. All right, let's put some of this color on the beak. I'm going to put a second layer on the body of the warm white. I want to make sure all that blue is covered up. I'm just going to loosely bring this in back here. I'll have to get a picture and see how far it comes back into the bird. All right, I'm going to dry this and get my second coat on of my warm white. Okay, since I have never painted a seagull, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I do know that I want to make a gray color with my white and black. We're just going to start with kind of a light gray. I'm going to eventually have this kind of blend out right there. Too much water. And we want some of this color out here on the tail. So hopefully I'm going to make this look like a seagull. I make no promises, but we're going to give it a really big shot. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush because I want to try and... I'm looking at a photograph here of one that is similarly facing the direction that I have mine facing. I do want to put a little bit of shading. This brushes are really worn out. I think I'm going to have to... a little bit there. I think his eye needs to come back farther than what I've drawn it. So I'll erase that, and we'll plan on putting his eye like right here. Doesn't have to be that big. That's a ginormous eye, but I want to get a little bit of this gray kind of around it. I'll put a little bit under here. I'm just kind of tapping in some of this gray, which I have a very small amount on my brush altogether. So he's going to be a pretty white bird, I hope, by the time I get done. But you know, for now we got to get some other values in here. Going to eventually kind of fade away right there. So literally I just dabbed in gray. I made a medium color gray with my black and white, and right there made a medium color gray, white, and just a little bit of black. If it's too dark, wipe your brush out, grab some white, and go out here beside where you created your mix and mix your white in, and you can pull some of that down if you still need to darken. Don't start a whole new pile, and don't throw it directly into the pile that you've done. I think that looks okay for now for a start. And they do kind of have a little bit of a webbed feet, so I think the way that I've got these painted in here okay, although I think I need to add a little more of that color down there. And we'll just fill this in, and we'll just add details as we need them, because that looks much better. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good. Smooth that out there. And all right, so that was our roughing in of where our dark values are going to start going on our bird. I think he looks pretty good. So I painted this area in very, very loosely, tried to leave some light in there so we can create where exactly some of the feathers lay. And then kind of wiped my brush off. If there was no paint left on it, I just went and got some water so I could moisten what paint was left in my brush, and then just very, very loosely, very messily put some of that color that was still in my brush just in some random places, like underneath the beak here, on each side of the eye, back here, you know, just, you're not going to be wrong wherever you put it, okay? Just lay some in there, be messy, don't think about it, leave it alone, and you're done. So let's get ready to move on. Alrighty, I stepped away from this for a while and I've come back to it, and I think what I want to do is break up some of this in the background. I love how it looks, don't get me wrong, but I feel like maybe just slightly breaking it up. So I'm going to create some washes and wash over some of this to make some varying values, a little bit more varying values in the background. If I don't like it, I've got my baby wipe right here. I can wipe it right off. So I'm going to start with my Bahama Blue, and I'm just going to create a little bit of a wash with this color and come in here and maybe break some of this up. I'm going to wipe my brush off, and let me wipe it off with something dry. I just wiped it off with something wet, and just kind of smooth that out and push some of that a little bit more backwards. Let's go up here and do some of this. We want just a wash of this color. We don't want to you know, obliterate what we've done. We just kind of want to get some depth going in there. Now I'm going to grab some of that mid-value, our Laguna. I still have some of that other in my brush. So I'm just going to take my finger, I think, and kind of blend that out. I think this could be just a tad darker in here. So let me get some of that dragon teal. And this one right here, I think I'll clean it off of that one, keep that one a bright white one. And then some dragon teal over here. So this is where we're just going to, let me get a little bit of water in there so we can make that a wash. We don't want to make it more of this dragon teal over here. And then I've got this area right here that I want to do a little bit with. I might do a combination of dragon teal and that Laguna color. Okay, so that's a little opaque for me, so let's just remove a little bit of that. I think this particular one right here, I want to keep that one light, and maybe this one right here. That one wasn't very dark to begin with. Okay, that breaks it up a little bit more, and I like that. I think I might go up here with a little bit with the light color. bit too much up there, so just dab it. Okay, that pushes some of that bokeh effect back even farther and brings just a few of them forward to where it gives it a little bit more sparkle where it needs to have a little bit more sparkle. And I think I like that much better. We still got all that effect, but we've just got certain areas that are just popping out for us. Okay, I think I'll go over to the edges and adjust those, and then we'll get painting on our bird again. Okay, another change that I want to make on this is I want to change the color of this post because that was just too brown for me. And when I think of the ocean, I think of more weathered, kind of dried, grayish toned wood, you know, that's had the water splashing up on it a long time. So I'm going to paint this with cobblestone. So my instructions will be in my packet to paint it with 2 coats of cobblestone, which will probably make it just slightly lighter than what I've got here because I've got that brown underneath it, but I think this is going to be a much better color for us. All right, another thing I want to do is I want to blur out the back line of the water. Okay, I really want to push it out. So I'm going to take my sky colors, which was Shoreline and Warm White, and I've got them both on my brush. I'm going to paint them along this line on this side, and then go on this side so we can get a nice blending and blurring out right there where the water and the sky meet. We just want to, blur it out. So don't get too crazy with how much paint you got. Don't bring it too far down into your water here either. Okay, we're just blurring out that line, really pushing the distant water way back there. Okay, and now that creates a much tighter focal point. Okay, let's see if we can get some work done on this bird now. So I'm going to put in its eye, and it's going to be a little bit of almost an oval eye, just with some black. I'm going to work a little bit on the beak. I'm going to take my white and my yellow and mix them together. And put this up here on this part of the beak. And we want to keep the end of it more that brighter orange. I'm going to rinse my brush off, and I just want to bring those two together. Just kind of blend them together there so they look more orange. So I'm going to do the same thing on the legs, just create a little highlight edge with my yellow and white mix, and then go into my orange, and we'll put this on the other side, and then we'll come back and kind of blend them. That little bit of a highlight on there. this yellow's probably dried already, so you should probably do one leg at a time. I'll go back to my yellow and okay, that's a lot. And wipe my brush off after I put that yellow in. Maybe pick up a tiny bit of the orange so we can blend it. Alright, let's see what we can do with the bird here. The bird doesn't really have a lot of stuff going on with it. We can darken up the wing area with our black and white mixture. A little bit more black into it this time. A darker gray value. And we can just come in here, much more, need a lot more black. There we go, that's darker. And we'll just tap this in here. Go back to just our white in our brush. And we'll get that gray value and try to blend them together, kind of like we did on the legs. Didn't want black there, I wanted that gray color. So I wiped my brush off and just picked up a little bit of white because I had black on my brush already. I want to blend that just a little bit more. I don't want it to be quite so harsh. And then we're going to go to the tail and get a little bit more of that darker color. And just put it on in a couple places, then just gently blend it, a little bit more of that black back in there. Bit of white on my brush, so this is just kind of going back and forth with the white and the black here. Just want to break that up a little bit on the tail. Doesn't have to be quite so dark. We've got a good start to the kind of gray color on the body, but I'll add a little bit more of that in here. I'm going to get ready to add some white in here. Again, I'm just kind of tapping it or in the places where we put it to begin with. Because we made him a warm white color, so I'm going to make his beak line. I'm going to keep it really thin out here, so I'm just taking a couple of hairs there and thinning that down. And maybe out here as well. We don't need it to stop at such a hard point out here. Give him a little nostril. We're going to come back in and do some shading and highlighting on this guy. Okay, so our bird isn't going to take a whole lot to finish up here. Keep having to leave this project and take care of stuff, and then coming back, it's like, where did I leave off? Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're just going to take some of our white and brighten this guy up. I don't want to cover up all of our little dark areas that we kind of put in there, so I'm just going to lightly go around them. Put a little bit on them to kind of push them in there, but we don't want to cover them completely. I do want to put a few little like pointy hair things, I guess. I don't know, kind of coming off. I don't know if we'll even be able to see this because our background is so light. We probably won't even be able to see that, so you know what? I wouldn't mess too much with that because we can't see it. I'm going to get a really fine liner here in a second to do some work on his eye. Alright, so I'm going to take my brush and get a little bit of black to make a very light gray color. Might have to be just a touch darker. I'm going to go along underneath the wing here. I think I need some moisture. I'm going to do a little bit of separation here. And we'll put a little bit of shadow down here. I'm going to grab a little white so it's not quite so gray down here on the legs. And then rinse your brush out, get some white, and we'll go along here. So we've got a little bit of shadow. We just need it lighter down here. We just want that shadow to be like right next to where the body comes together. Okay, on the wing, we don't really have to do a whole lot to the wing because we're not making realistic stuff here. So for me, the wing and the body all look pretty good. Some of them on the tip of the wing back here have white, like back here on the very tip of the wing. So we could add that in here, a little white. Just on the tip of the wing. Okay, the wing doesn't quite come over that far. That's like the other side of the other side. Too much black. I got my dark gray here. Kind of keep that a little bit darker. Oh my gosh, it just got incredibly dark outside. Like rain is going to be pouring down any second. I'm going to switch to my flat brush so I can be up on the chisel a little bit better. And tuck some color in there. Try to tuck some color in there. Still think I have too much moisture on my canvas here. pouring down rain now. We had such a slight chance of rain today. I'm going to make that lighter gray color if I can. A little bit more white in there. I don't want it to be white. I want it to just be a lighter gray. I want a separation here between this side of the bird and the other side of the bird. Okay, I'm going to go back over that place on the wing with some white. Figure out how I'm going to write my instructions for this because we kind of moved all around this. And let's see, we will try to think how I want to bring this white. And then the tail feathers do have a little bit of white on them as well. So we'll just put a little white back there. Just blend a little white there, kind of where they meet. We want to make it all look, you know, like it's supposed to be there. And then go back over the chest again and the top of the head with some white a second time. Top of the head. Oh, let's not cover up the eyeball. That was an awful wide float I had there. Okay, we got to wash a little bit of blue on this bird here too, so I think we'll finish up his legs first. I still want this to be a little bit more solid. Right there. Okay, he's looking pretty good. Okay, we're going to start using this whole little bitty brush here. And I'm going to take my yellow color. Their eyes are like yellow, like this golden yellow. With a little tiny black dot in the middle. So we're going to create a line below the eye that is yellow as well. And I know this is super detailed here. I'm going to rinse my brush and get some black. I have a super fine brush here. This is a 15-0 detail short bristle. Okay, so I want to go around the eye. Now you could just paint the yellow shape and then add your little black dot and go around the eye. Go down here. Brush. It's not as detailed, but I think I can stay up on the tip and maybe clean that up a little bit. I'm going to put a few wrinkly things outside the eye here. This is with the medium gray mix. You don't have to get this detailed on your eye, okay? So if you don't want to be quite this detailed, then just paint your eye in and be done with it. You don't have to do, you know, all the steps that I'm doing if it seems too intricate for you. All right, some white. And I think I'll put a little bit down here in this yellow. And then I'll put a little dot there, maybe give a little reflection. And that will finish off the eye. It's pretty just small details, small lines. And put a little bit more of the washy gray. Around the eye. I think that will help with the eye a little bit. Just a tiny little bit. That a washy light to medium gray, whatever gray you have mixed on your palette is all I did. I just took a damp brush, and mine was already kind of dried on my palette, but when I took a damp brush it reactivated it, so I was able to just get a little bit on my brush there, kind of that medium gray. So it was mostly water and just a tiny bit of paint. All right, we're going to move on to the legs and the beak. They should be fairly quick. We don't need to really do a whole lot to this. I'm going to go with my detail liner, get a little bit more of the orange, and we'll just brighten up the beak and go along the bottom edge. Take a damp brush and kind of blend that out. I don't want it to be just a stark, solid line. I'm going to mix a tiny bit of black in with my orange. And we'll create some shadows. This is some fine detail stuff here. So I'm going to go along this back edge of the legs up next to the body. Try to stay off the body. I don't want to fill the whole leg with this color, this mix of orange with just a little bit of black in it. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush and pick up just my orange and go a little bit next to that. Okay, so the orange mix that I made, the dark orange with a little bit of black, I think I might have to use my fine detail liner for this. I'm going to load that mix on my brush and put some lines in the beak. Try to put some lines in the beak. Again, detail lines, totally up to you. All these final detail stuff, you know, that we're putting in here. Okay. Then we're going to take some white and yellow and mix that together. And kind of lighten. There, I just pulled a few strokes, nothing major. And then we'll put some lighting on our bird, just kind of here and there along the front. This is the yellow and white mix, probably 2 white to 1 yellow. Just mix a nice light yellow color. This is not a bold yellow. It's just a, you know, soft yellow. I think I need to fix that right there. Needs to come down more on the leg. This one too. That looks better. Okay, that looks really good, and then you can do a final little highlight of just white, just in a couple places. Use your fine little detail brush. Tiny, tiny. That's what I like about this brush. You can get the smallest little details. Fresh paint is always going to work best, okay? Alright, so there we go on that. Wide angle out. We still got to put some blue on the bird, but the eye, the beak, the legs are done. So we'll put a little blue on the bird, then we'll be done with the blue, or done with the bird. Let's finish the bird. So I'm going to try Laguna, and I'm going to make a very sheer wash of it. I might actually put some dragon teal out with it to give it a little bit more of a blue tint as opposed to a green tint. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of that, and I'm just going to mix those two colors on my brush in a wash. So I've got mostly water in my brush, a little bit of paint, both those colors, just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of paint. Okay, then we can wash some of this on our bird. Just a few places, wherever you want it. We do want to put some on the wing, so I'm going to get a little bit more of that dragon teal so it'll show up on here. Okay, remember you're just doing a wash, so we're not getting carried away with this color. Okay, just a kiss of color. Just a kiss, kiss, kiss. Okay, you don't have to do a whole lot. Keep it light and not much. Okay, so our bird's done. Give him a quick dry. I think he looks great. I'm going to finish this old weathered post now. Okay, so I've got black out. I'm going to put my cobblestone out, which was our base color. I've got warm white and white. Those should be the only colors we need, and then we'll wash a little blue onto it. So I'm going to take my chalk pencil and just maybe, I want this to be like a knot or something, and then we're going to just create some weathering lines through here. It's going to come all the way down, but I'm just going to work on the top of it here for you guys. Okay, this is kind of just giving you an idea of what we can do with this. Okay, so I'll use my round brush. I'm going to take my cobblestone and mix a little black with it. And I'm going to create some of these, maybe just a tiny bit more black. Create some of these lines going in here. We don't want them all to be perfect and straight and all that stuff, okay? So just create a few little loose lines in there. Alright, let's make some shading on here. We're going to take that same mix, that black and cobblestone, maybe put a little bit more black in it. I think I'll start on this side, and we'll start some shading on this side of the post. And maybe some of our areas that we put some lines are super thick, so we can shade to create that. I'm going to go around this little thing here, make it darker. I don't want this side of my post to be super dark, so just brush a little bit on there. I'm going to put some down here on this. Flip it this way so I can do this edge. You won't be doing this if you don't have a wraparound canvas. You can do it if you have a more shallow canvas as well. Okay, so we got some darker colors in there, some darker values. I like that. This really should not take us very long at all to do. Okay, we're going to add some highlight on here. We're going to take white and cobblestone. Let's do 2 white, 1 cobblestone, and start some highlight on here. And I'm going to highlight on this side. And we'll put some of this into our post. Maybe go along the edge up here. Could be shadowed up there as well, you know. Might come back and add some darker color up there. I want to try and stay off of my dark shading places, but you know, if it gets on there, no big deal. This side over here is going to be mostly dark. We're actually going to widen that dark line, that dark shading. So I'm going to put some down here. This is 2 white and 1 cobblestone. Okay. That'll start fading down in there as it dries. So I want to go back to that darker color, that cobblestone and black mix, and mix some fresh up here because I used most of mine. Okay, that's a lot of black. Cobblestone and black, just make a nice dark color, and then a little bit more black. I want to darken a little bit, especially along this edge here. Man, it is just flat pouring out there. I cannot believe it. The sun was shining. My husband and I were having lunch and the sun was shining, and you know, he was going to go out and work in the yard, but obviously he can't now. Crazy weather. Okay. Let's get a little bit of this on this side. Just kind of dry brushing it now. And wherever you want to maybe create, see now with that one I just made that crack look so much deeper into the little post there. Okay, and then I'm going to dry this real quick and we're going to brighten with some white. And I just quickly dried it off camera. Just white. Again, just put it in a few places. Don't overfill. You know, that sometimes can be our tendency to just like keep going. Sometimes you just got to put a few little strokes in there and then just stop. Okay, we're just making weathered wood here. Okay. All right, so that looks good. I'm going to dry it and then we're going to wash some blue in there. So let's add a little bit of wash of these blues in here. I'm going to do that mix again of Dragon Teal and Laguna. And I just want to make a wash of it. Oh, our weather alarm thing's going off, so I must be having some flash flooding issues somewhere. don't know if you can hear that noise clear in here or not, but it's loud. When that thing goes off, it scares me to death every single time. And I'll put some down here. We want it all to come together. All right, so we can repeat that blue. Let's dry that. I may have to darken that just a little bit. And any places on there, you know, step back away from it if it looks like it needs darkening, because I really feel like that this whole edge up here needs to be dark. So just kind of use your own judgment when you look at it. Sometimes it's like that doesn't quite look right. Oh, I'm not sure that was done right. So just kind of use your own judgment and bring things together. What works for you. I think that looks better being all dark across the top like that. I do want to make a little bit of I'm trying to make that dark mix there and kind of put a little bit in here. I really want that knot to be a little bit more apparent. Let me dry that and I'll put a few tiny white lines in there. Still want to go back with my okay, that looks a little bit better. This is where you just kind of take your time and do a little tweaking. I am literally just kind of dry brushing this on now because my brush doesn't have hardly any moisture in it, only just a little bit of paint. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I might want to bring that dark color around that edge, but I'm going to go back to my blue. My two blue mixes and put just a little bump on the color here on that. And grab a little bit here, kind of round that edge out a little bit. Actually might want to dry it. It's super wet. Outside my lines. Don't get outside your lines. Okay, I like that much better. Okay, I had to make an adjustment on the feet because the way his body was shaped. I went ahead and added just white across his all the way down through here and left that one a little bit shadowed because the way his body was up here, I didn't have his feet facing the right direction. So I'm sure all of you were watching this video going, why is his feet turned backwards and his body's turned forwards? well, who knows. So all I did was make a like a webbed foot on both, painted it the same way, added my orange, my darker here, and my yellow and white, and then white and here. So a little dark on each side of the little raised part of the webbed foot. Okay. So I'll be sure and put that picture in my packet instead of the other one. I want to put a little dark up here next to the body. Give it a little shadow there. Okay, so I think let me lighten this edge up here. I want it to be, you know, have a little bit of shadow in there, because this one is just slightly behind. And then my white will go all the way across onto that one. So that's going to make it look a little bit better, I think. So I'll put the correct picture in the packet, and now you have the correct instruction. Yeah, I was cleaning up my stuff, and then I looked down at my painting, and I'm like, I'm not sure his legs look right. So I had to Google, what do seagulls' feet look like? So I could see what they look like. Oh my gosh, crazy. But it looks much better now. I'm very happy with it. So there you go. Enjoy. Thanks so much for watching and painting with me today, everybody. I hope after this that you'll give me a thumbs up. Please like, which is a thumbs up. Please subscribe, and please leave a comment, you guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.